Hi everyone, welcome to Med Device Engineer X, and today we're going to talk about field service engineering versus clinical engineering and finding out which of these two career paths is the right one for you. They're the same degree, same major, and maybe even graduating the same class, but one of them right now is on a plane and the other one is inside a hospital repairing a ventilator, and they both have a biomedical engineering degree. So which one are you going to be? Before I get into this, I want to be real with you. Most comparisons you see online, you could from LinkedIn or Indeed, they give you the job description and they just call it a day. And I'm not doing that. We're going to talk about the actual day-to-day, the salary trajectory, the lifestyle trade-offs, because I've experienced both. And the thing nobody puts in the job posting, which career will make you want to quit in year 3? And which one will make you feel like you're exactly where you're supposed to be? So let's go for what is a field service engineer? Okay, field service engineer, or FSE for short. What does this person actually do? An FSE is the person that medical device companies, think Siemens Healthineers, GE Healthcare, these big companies, Philips, Stryker, Medtronic, they send out FSEs to hospitals and clinics when their equipment needs to be installed or calibrated or repaired. So you are the expert. You show up, you fix the problem, and then you leave. And then you're probably driving to the next hospital that's 90 minutes away. Or perhaps you're already done for the day. Your employer is not the hospital that you're going to. You work for the manufacturer, so the OEM. That's a huge distinction, and we'll get back to why that matters. A typical week might look like Monday, you're training a surgical team in Dallas on a new robotic system. Then Wednesday, you might be in a different hospital doing a software upgrade on an MRI, for example, Phoenix. Then Friday, you're troubleshooting a crash that happened in an ultrasound machine in a trauma center at 11 p.m. So the hours can actually be not your usual 9 to 5. How about for a clinical engineer? Now, clinical engineer, or sometimes called a biomedical equipment technician, or BMET at the tech level, clinical engineers tend to be more senior. They manage entire medical equipment programs for a hospital or health system. And this time, your employer is the hospital. You are the hospital's person. A clinical engineer's job is to make sure every device in that building, every infusion pump, every monitor, every defibrillator is safe, compliant, and working. So you manage the life cycle of the equipment, from the installation to the decommissioning. You work with the clinical staff, you fight with procurement, you deal with the audits. And here's what a lot of people don't realize. At a large hospital that could be tens of thousands of pieces of medical equipment, you are essentially running a technical operations department inside a healthcare system. Your week could look like Monday morning, rounds with the ICU nurses because there's an issue with the ventilator alarms. Tuesday, you could be reviewing a capital equipment request for a new CT scanner. Then the next day, you're meeting with a vendor about a software upgrade or recall notice. And then Friday, you're doing required maintenance checks so the hospital doesn't fail its inspection. It's less glamorous on paper, but it might be exactly what some of you actually want. With the lifestyle reality, first I'll talk about money, because I know that's why half of you clicked. For field service engineers, entry level specifically or typically starts in the $55,000 to $75 range, depending on the company and the equipment type. That's a very big thing. However, one bonus I would like to highlight is FSEs, field service engineers. They often have a very significant variable component. So these could be travel reimbursements, toil, overtime, per diems. If you're willing to be on the road, your total compensation can hit $90,000 to $110,000 within a few years, especially if you specialize in high value modalities like MRI or surgical robotics. For clinical engineers, hospital-based roles tend to start slightly lower, $50,000 to $70,000 at entry, but they're more stable and benefits are typically good. A clinical engineer with 5 to 7 years of experience managing a department can earn $90,000 to $120,000, especially in large health systems, or if you move into director level roles. So specifically for myself, who I live in the UK, we have the NHS, and there's different bandings, 6, 7. So if you work as a clinical engineer inside the NHS, you're more likely to move up in banding depending on vacancies up the chain. So at the top end, field service engineers and clinical engineers, they're more comparable. The difference is really how you get there and what you sacrifice. From the people I've spoken to, the FSE gets there faster, but you're paying with your weekends. Whereas the CE, the clinical engineer, gets there a bit more steadily, but you're navigating hospital politics the whole way. Now let's talk about lifestyle. This is the section that nobody puts on the job description. So field service engineer, you will travel a lot. Of course, this depends on your territory. You could be on the road 60 to 80% of the time. You could be in hotels, airport lounges. I've specifically been hotels near the airport, eating dinner alone. Sometimes in your company car, you mostly have lunches inside it. So if you're good at organization and meal prepping, you might enjoy field service engineer. Some people love this. I genuinely love it. They thrive on variety. They love solving problems in new environments. And it's nice to see the whole country on someone else's dime. However, if you have a family, responsibilities, you actually might want to think about this. Of course, because of your familiar responsibilities, it might be difficult for you to organize and manage your time because you're going to be away from home a lot. And of course, this totally depends on the scopes of your responsibilities. Now let's talk about clinical engineering. You're going to be in the same hospital every day, seeing the same faces, navigating the same internal politics for years. If you find the right institution, that stability is deeply satisfying. Although, from my experience, I've rarely seen this. But you do build relationships, and you become the expert everyone calls inside the hospital, and you kind of have a home base. The downside, hospital environments can be slow to change. And you feel like your engineering skills could be underused, if you're not careful about where you land. Let's talk about what each path actually builds in you. As an FSE, you become extremely technically sharp, very fast. You're exposed to dozens of hospitals, dozens of clinical environments, and you get really good at diagnosing problems quickly under pressure. That technical credibility becomes the currency. FSCs often transition into application specialist roles, product management, sales engineering, medical device sales, or back into the OEM on the R&D side. So these are all possible transitions. As a clinical engineer, you build systems thinking and operational leadership. You understand how healthcare systems work from the inside. This positions you well for healthcare IT, regulatory affairs, health technology management, and eventually executive roles inside hospital systems, director of clinical engineering, VP of technical management. These roles pay very well. Neither path is a dead end, but they develop different skill sets and so develop different versions of where you want to end up to be. So which is better? I'm going to give you the answer you probably don't want, but it depends entirely on who you are. For me personally, I don't like going to the same hospital every single day, working on the same equipment with more oftentimes than not the same faults. I enjoy field and service engineering. But for you, on the other hand, I'll ask yourself three questions. 1, do you recharge by being in new places and solving novel problems? Or do you recharge by building deep expertise in one environment? FSC rewards the first, CE rewards the second. 2, what does your life outside work need to look like in 5 years? If travel doesn't fit that life, you'll resent the FSC path no matter how good the pay is. 3, do you want to be the best technician in the room, or do you want to eventually run the room? Both are valid, but they lead to very different decisions right now. If this helped you, please hit subscribe. I'm going to start putting out videos like this every week, specifically for new BME students and early career engineers trying to figure out which path actually makes sense for their life. And I'm gonna kind of change the format a little bit. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Which one are you leaning toward, FSE or CE? And if you're already working one of those roles, drop your honest take down there. Write your experience. Real experience beats everything I just said. I know a lot more people with more experience than me. So please feel free to share the comments, and you might help someone that's deciding regarding what role they should take. And also, I'll drop my LinkedIn link below as well, so you could feel free to link and drop me a message if you like, and we can connect through there. I'll see you in the next one.